afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Goffstown Today, the local public affairs program that's brought to you by the Goffstown Democratic Committee. Our goal in these programs is to provide meaningful discussions of local and state issues important to the greater Goffstown community. Over the coming weeks, we're going to be spotlighting many more issues of importance to Goffstown and to the state of New Hampshire in this fall's election. Our guest today is Mark MacKenzie, candidate for the New Hampshire Executive Council District 4. Mr. MacKenzie is a longtime presence on the New Hampshire political scene. He's a former Manchester firefighter, a labor leader, and president emeritus of the New Hampshire AFL-CIO. He's facing incumbent Republican Ted Gatsas, a former Manchester alderman and mayor and former state senator, in the contest for the Executive Council. The council, which approves things like expenditures and contracts, is essentially New Hampshire's board of directors. I've spent my life serving the people in my community, and with your help, I'll continue that service on the Executive Council, Mr. MacKenzie says. And with that, Mr. MacKenzie, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for the introduction. You can see, based on some of the things I've done over the course of the years, that I feel that I'm qualified for this position and think that I will do, a good job as the Executive Council. One of the things that I have spent a great deal of my time on over the course of the years is working on family issues, working class issues. I have done everything from collective bargaining through public policy work at the state legislature, have served on a number of boards and commissions appointed by both Democrat and Republican governors, have studied everything from workers' comp to unemployment to pension benefits to gaming, full range of things that I've worked on over the course of the years. And one of the things I think that prepares me for the Executive Council is that work that I have done. I have spent a great deal of time in the legislative arena, looking over all kinds of legislation, being able to sift through, I think, all the nuances that come with legislative work. And I've also, have an advanced degree in public administration and went back to school when I was a little bit older so that I would be better prepared to do the work with the AFL-CIO, but also to do public policy work, which I really enjoy. And for the Executive Council, in many ways, it's where the rubber meets the road. It is the executive department, and it is a place where you take what the legislature has intended, the things that they have funded over the course of the years, and turn it into an operation, operationalize a lot of those kinds of things that the legislature has worked on. And I think that is an important connection, and I hope that I can do a good job based on my experience in really operationalizing that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm here. I never thought I'd be running for the Executive Council, quite frankly. There was a terrific woman out of Goffstown who had thought about it and worked on it. But here we are. I'm excited about it, and I think I do a great job with it.
Well, looking at what do you feel the priorities are for the next legislature and the next budget cycle, which is obviously going to be impacted by COVID spending?
Well, I mean, I think that, the legislature, as opposed to the council, but the legislature is going to have to come to grips with what I think will be some significant shortfalls. I would think that the rooms and meals tax has been impacted a great deal. The highway fund has got to have taken a hit based on how it is that we raise money around that. So I think those are two big places. And then you've got the whole issue of, of the revenue that goes into that wages produced for the unemployment system, which has taken a big hit. The unemployment system, the last time I looked at it, the last time I was on a call, is basically, I don't think they're borrowing yet from the federal government, but they will be. So you've got to, that's depleted the unemployment fund, which I believe there is about $350 million worth of benefits that have been paid out. That all has to come back, and that's actually going to come back, has to come back fairly quickly, the way that the law is set up. So employers, get ready, because you're going to get a substantial increase in your unemployment costs. But generally, when you think of all that's happened over the past couple of years, this is the past few months, actually, we're in a very different position than we were last time we looked at the budget. It's going to be a tough budget, and I don't think anybody knows what the future is going to look like. And that makes it even more precarious when you try to develop a budget based on, facts that are really unprecedented in our economy.
How important do you think it's going to be if, and I think we all hope it doesn't happen, but if Sununu is reelected governor, how do you feel about the role of the council in being a counterbalance to some of his excesses, to put it nicely?
Well, I mean, I think there has always been a tension between the executive council and the governor. I was on a conversation with Maggie Hassan not too long ago, and we were kind of reminiscing about the time that she was governor, and her Senate colleagues say, that must have been wonderful to be the governor of New Hampshire. And she says, it is, but you got to recognize that you have an executive council, which really you have to deal with. There are 5 people that you always have to deal with. So a lot of this is about being able to work together and to find solutions together. And I think that if, the governor who has, in my opinion, spent money that he shouldn't have spent without the authority of the executive council, he essentially thumbed his nose at the legislature, who has jurisdiction over spending in the state, and really doled out thousands and thousands of dollars without any oversight. And as a matter of fact, when you look at how a lot of the spending took place, it was an addendum. It was basically just a note at the bottom of the agendas over the past couple of over the meetings, and he just basically gave money away. So I think that if the governor is still there, if Governor Sununu is still there, there's going to be a reckoning, an understanding that the executive council plays an important role. That is not something that was made up. That is something that is in the Constitution, and it is specifically in the Constitution to limit the authority of the governor. And the Governor Sununu or other governors may not like that reality, but that's how it is. And my role as an executive council is to make sure that there is a balance there, that we weigh in, that the people that elect me, the 267,000 people that elect the executive council, their voice is heard, that there is a balance, that the Constitution plays itself out the way it's supposed to. And that's what I see my role and responsibility.
Do you think, depending on whether who holds the majority on the executive council, there'd be any going back and taking a retrospective look at some of the spending during COVID?
That's a good question. I haven't thought that through, but I think I think the question that has to be answered is whether or not the executive council has the authority, and the legislature for that matter, because it was their court case, and while they rejected the first step, is my understanding that there is still action and opportunities there based on what the judge said. But if I think that there's got to be an understanding that the executive council is important in this thing, and it is there specifically to oversee the spending and to institute and operationalize a budget and to use. The governor has an interpretation of what his authority is. The executive council does as well. And in some place that's going to get reconciled, whether that's in the courts, whether that's an understanding that develops between the governor and the executive council. I'm not quite sure. But I think it is an issue that needs to be flushed out, and there needs to be an understanding. I understand what the governor is hanging his hat on, the way that he is doing this. and whether or not that is acceptable within the context of our Constitution, I think is a very different question that needs to be answered.
How about looking at 2021 in general? Any thoughts or ideas for if revenue has taken as big a hit as you say, which I think we all realize it probably will. Any new ideas, thinking outside the box on how we might raise additional revenues?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing we have to do is kind of stipulate to the problem, which is not clear right now. So the question, I think, that for all of us elected officials in every capacity that we are, is to get a really good handle on what's going on and what the nature of the extent of the problem is that we're dealing with. You know, that's the first thing, you know, as a firefighter, when you pull up in a building and it's going, you always make an assessment of what you have here. And that's the first step in any of this. And I think it's an important first step. I think following that, that assessment and understanding where we are, then we need to begin the process of trying to figure out how we get through the next few years. And that is, as I said earlier, that's going to be very difficult, because this is unlike anything we have ever experienced in our modern lifetime, in modern times. And there is so much uncertainty going forward. I'm interested, quite frankly, in what the impact, you know, is based on the decisions that were made. And also the things have changed, right? The unemployment system went through this enormous drain. So what impacts is this going to have? What are some of the other things that are going to come up as a result of the pandemic? The kinds of assistance that's needed in local communities. Will the resources have to shift over to different places, which is a possibility. So I think that this is going to be a very challenging couple of years. And the only thing I would say to anybody who's running for elected office, there are Democrats and there are Republicans and there are independents and there are all kinds of people in this mix. But right now, our responsibility, whoever ends up there, our responsibility is going to be to make sure that we figure this out together. And if we're going to start fighting with each other, that is not going to work, because this is a crisis of epic proportions. So I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to stand up and to work and to come together. And my colleagues, if I am elected, my colleagues, I hope are going to do the same thing.
Well, thank you. Let me ask you this. I think those of us who remember back a few years, one of the issues that your opponent, Mr. Gatsas, is identified with is the education financing system. What are your thoughts on New Hampshire is still fighting the same fight on education financing we've been for 30 years. Do you think that there's any possible solutions, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think that my role in the executive council is somewhat limited in that. But let me say this: having studied, workforce issues for a long time, I think there are some serious issues, not only with the education system, but with a whole variety of systems within the state of New Hampshire that need attention. Now, I responded to somebody on Facebook last night, and I said to him, I said, we don't all start from the same place in New Hampshire. If you're in a community that is under-resourced, that doesn't have the kinds of opportunities that other communities may have, we know that there is different ways, different amounts that go to students and those kinds of things. And so we don't start in the same place. That is a big problem in New Hampshire. I think Andy Valinsky tried to deal with that. He's done a wonderful job bringing that to light. So you've got the education funding, which is not fair and equitable. And to me, what government's role, quite frankly, is to make sure that things are fair and equitable and everybody gets a fair shot. And right now, that's not the case. But let's dig deeper into our economic situation within the state of New Hampshire. Let's look at the problems that we face with high childcare costs, with pockets of low-wage jobs in many parts of the state. Let's deal with the issue of transportation. To get from point A to B is not easy within the state of New Hampshire. Let's deal with the question of how expensive it is to get a college education within the state of New Hampshire, one of the highest places in the United States for public education. If we want to change the course of our state, then we need to stop talking about it and actually go into some place and start mitigating some of the issues that affect our economy and that are really serious problems. Too many people in our economy are stuck. They're stuck because they can't get out of that situation. They don't have good transportation. They don't have great opportunities. They don't have access to education. And I think we gotta come to grips with that if we really want to grow this state. And finally, let me say that New Hampshire, the Charitable Foundation has done work around this. There is an increased divide between the rich and the poor in New Hampshire. There is clearly that's happening. That's not something Mark MacKenzie is making up. That's something that is documented. And you can't continue along that path where you have the rich and the poor, because those kinds of inequities can't be tolerated in a fair and equitable society. We need to come to grips with the fact that those kinds of things are happening in our economy, and that we need to figure out ways to try to mitigate some of those things.
Well, I thank you very much. If there are you have any concluding remarks you'd like to offer?
Sure. Well, let me just say this, that I offer to the voters of Goffstown and the district a very different, I come from a very different place. My history is about community service. It's about working for the fire department. It's about advocating for workers my entire life. It's about things that I can point to that I've done that have made a difference in people's lives. And I offer you a choice. That is my choice. You're going to have a chance to see Mr. Gatsis in action. He has a long record, and you got to make the decision about the type of person that you want to go forward. And that's what I offer, a choice, an opportunity as somebody who comes from a very different place. And I look forward to representing the people of Goffstown, the voters of Goffstown, and the people of this district. And I ask for your support.
Thank you very much for being with us today, Mark. We appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Just in conclusion, I'd like to let everybody watching know you can watch these programs here on Goffstown TV. We have a video page on our website, goffstowndems.com. You can search for these videos on the Goffstown Democrats YouTube channel, or you can find them on Facebook at facebook.com/GoffstownDems. Please like them. Please share them widely. Thank you very much for watching today.
Thank you.